Did you know Arnold Schwarzenegger was once considered for the role of Kyle Reese instead of the unstoppable cyborg? It's true. Back in the early casting stages, director James Cameron thought Arnold could play the gritty human hero, but during their first meeting, he noticed Arnold's intense stare and imposing physique, perfect qualities for the villainous machine. Cameron's mind changed in an instant, and a legendary film villain was born. Schwarzenegger himself was open to any role, but once Cameron saw that cold determination, there was no going back. Now, let's dive into 29 lesser-known stories from the set. 1. Fever Dream sparked idea James Cameron credits a fever dream for the film's creation. While in Rome trying to sell another project, he fell ill and had a vivid nightmare of a metallic skeleton rising from flames. That haunting image clung to him. As soon as he recovered, he started sketching out the story of a relentless killer from the future. He jotted down pages of notes, weaving together time travel, an apocalyptic war with machines, and a desperate human resistance. He later said that fever was the best thing that happened to him. Without it, we might never have gotten the Terminator. 2. Script sold for $1. Producer Gail Ann Hurd bought Cameron's script for $1. The catch was that Cameron would direct, ensuring his unique vision remained intact. At the time, studios were skeptical about letting this relatively unknown filmmaker take the reins. But Hurd believed in Cameron's passion, so she made the deal. $1 for the script, and Cameron in the director's chair. In hindsight, it was one of the most cost-effective moves in Hollywood history, propelling Cameron's career and launching a franchise that would span decades. 3OJ rejected O.J. Simpson's name, floated around as a potential Terminator. The idea was that Simpson had the physicality to play a menacing figure, but James Cameron famously said audiences wouldn't buy O.J. Simpson as a cold-blooded killer. It was 1984, after all, and Simpson still held a wholesome public image. This casting trivia turned ironic years later, but at the time, Cameron felt it simply didn't click for the role. He wanted someone whose on-screen presence screamed unstoppable terror, which led him back to Arnold. 4. Biehn's accent issue, Michael Biehn, who portrayed the brave but haunted Kyle Reese, nearly lost the part after auditioning with a Southern accent. He'd come straight from a different casting call and forgot to drop it. James Cameron liked Biehn's look, but found the accent distracting. Once Biehn redid the scene in a straightforward, urgent tone, Cameron was sold. That calm yet desperate voice became a hallmark of Reese, focused on survival, convinced he had to protect Sarah at all costs. 5. Hamilton limped on set. Linda Hamilton, playing Sarah Connor, spent a chunk of the shoot limping around on an injured ankle. She'd hurt herself while filming a chase scene and had to push through the pain. Cameron decided to work her real limp into the movie, making Sarah seem even more overwhelmed by the nightmare unfolding around her. Hamilton later said the discomfort actually helped her portray Sarah's fear and exhaustion. It gave her a visceral sense of vulnerability that aligned perfectly with Sarah's early stages of terror. 6. Arnold trained like a robot. Arnold Schwarzenegger spent hours learning to handle firearms without blinking or flinching. He wanted his movements to look robotic, as if the Terminator felt no emotion. He practiced loading and aiming again and again, ensuring each gesture was efficient and mechanical. Arnold's stony expression wasn't just acting. He trained his mind to stay in machine mode. On set, the crew often marveled at how chilling it was to see him whip out a shotgun with no hint of human reaction in his eyes. 7. I'll be back debate. The phrase, "I'll be back," was almost, "I will be back." Arnold struggled with the contraction in English. He approached Cameron, suggesting that "I will be back" might be easier to pronounce. but Cameron insisted on the shorter version for maximum impact. Arnold relented, not realizing this simple line would become one of cinema's most iconic catchphrases. Decades later, people still quote it, not just in reference to Terminator, but whenever they step out of a room. 8. Shot scenes without permits. Making a movie on a budget of around $6.4 million forced Cameron to shoot many night scenes guerrilla-style around Los Angeles. They didn't have permits for every location, so the crew had to film quickly, hoping to finish before the police arrived. Sometimes they'd even use real passing cars as part of the background. The result is a gritty, lived-in city feel that adds to the movie's tension. That stealthy approach gave The Terminator an almost documentary-like realism in its nighttime chases. 9. Score made at home. Brad Fiedel composed the film's distinct electronic score in his home studio. He wanted a heartbeat motif for The Terminator, steady and unfeeling. So he mixed pounding synthesizers with unsettling metallic clangs, capturing the essence of a machine that never tires or slows down. Cameron loved it, praising how the music built a sense of dread, always pulsing in the background. Fiedel's theme became so iconic that future sequels and reboots often tried to echo its industrial quality. 10. Stop-motion Terminator. One of the trickiest sequences involved stop-motion animation showing the Terminator's endoskeleton stalking after Sarah and Reese. At that point in the story, all the flesh has burned off, leaving just metal. Stan Winston's crew used miniature models on a small set, moving them frame by frame. Cameron intercut these shots with puppet close-ups and full-scale mechanical parts. It might seem a bit dated now, but in 1984, it was jaw-dropping. Cameron insisted on getting each tiny movement right, meticulously ensuring the creature looked as inhuman and unstoppable as possible. 11. Tech Noir Chaos. While filming the Tech Noir nightclub scene, real passers-by on the street kept craning their necks to see what was happening. The production team had to politely shoo them away to maintain the neon-lit, grungy vibe. Inside, extras danced to pounding music while Cameron orchestrated a tense sequence of cross-cutting. Sarah is oblivious to the danger, Reese spots the Terminator, and then chaos breaks loose. Many crew members cite this scene as their favorite because it perfectly encapsulates the movie's blend of dread, action, and a glimmer of hope. 12. Henriksen went full method. Lance Henriksen, who portrayed Detective Vukovich, famously arrived at an early production meeting in a tattered coat, wearing silver foil on his teeth. He wanted to demonstrate the creepiness of the Terminator concept. He barged into the office, acting half-crazed, freaked out a few folks, and then calmly broke character, explaining his vision. Everyone in that meeting quickly realized they had something special on their hands. Henriksen's readiness to commit made him a favorite among cast and crew, even if he didn't end up as the killer robot himself. 13. Hamilton's fear was real. The scene where Sarah's co-worker is gunned down was so intense that Linda Hamilton felt genuine terror. The combination of squibs exploding, Arnold's imposing figure in the doorway, and the deafening gunfire left Hamilton shaken. In interviews, she recalled that her heightened pulse was real, not just acting. Cameron believed those raw reactions elevated the film from a typical action flick to a nerve-wracking experience. 14. Creepy animatronic Arnold found the eye surgery sequence particularly disturbing. The special effects crew built a realistic animatronic head of Arnold, half the flesh peeled back to reveal metal. They shot close-ups of the prop's face in a dark bathroom mirror. While on set, Arnold said the likeness was so accurate it felt like staring at a gruesome alternate version of himself. The puppet had mechanical eyes that moved in sync with the real Arnold's mannerisms, making it eerily convincing. 15. fought for R rating. Securing the R rating was a battle. Studio executives thought a PG-13 might open up a bigger audience, but Cameron refused to tone down the violence. He argued that the Terminator's unflinching brutality was essential to the story. Ultimately, the R rating stuck, which ironically boosted the movie's appeal to older teens and adults who wanted a more intense sci-fi experience. Critics later praised the film's raw edge, noting that the lack of sugarcoating made the threat feel frighteningly real. 16. Tension over gore. Test screenings revealed just how tense the movie was. Some viewers literally jumped from their seats at jump-scare moments, like when the Terminator suddenly appears through a windshield or busts down a door. Cameron found that he didn't need as much gore as he'd initially thought. The sheer tension was enough, so he trimmed a few grisly shots, favoring suspense over shock. This gave The Terminator a riveting pace. It scared you with the idea of unstoppable pursuit, not just with visual bloodshed. 17. Low-budget lighting tricks. Budget constraints forced James Cameron to use clever lighting techniques. He'd cover street lamps and car headlights with colored gels, giving the nighttime scenes an otherworldly glow. This approach also masked production limitations, since they couldn't afford elaborate set pieces. The result is a neon, noir-like atmosphere, with LA's shadows amplifying the film's futuristic paranoia. Even simple steps, like shooting during twilight, helped maintain the haunting mood without breaking the bank. 18. Reese-Sarah chemistry. Michael Biehn and Linda Hamilton went out of their way to develop the emotional bond between Reese and Sarah. They felt that if audiences didn't care about this relationship, all the sci-fi flash wouldn't matter. So they practiced lines together after hours, discussing how trauma might draw these characters close. Biehn said it was crucial to show a gentle side to Reese, even though he's from a brutal future, so that Sarah could see glimpses of hope. This tenderness hits home in the film's quieter scenes, offering a break from the relentless pursuit. 19. Minimal Terminator dialogue. Arnold's limited dialogue was a deliberate choice. James Cameron wanted the Terminator to speak only when it served the mission. No unnecessary chatter, no jokes. This stripped-down approach makes the Terminator's presence all the more haunting. Every word feels strategic, every action mechanical. Arnold embraced this, keeping his posture rigid and his face blank, as if fueled by a singular directive. It became a stark contrast to the lively human interactions between Reese and Sarah. 20. Progressive damage makeup. Stan Winston's makeup team carefully charted the Terminator's progressive damage. As the story progresses, more of Arnold's face reveals the metallic endoskeleton. They used layers of prosthetics and subtle animatronics to peel away the human facade. Each step had to align with the previous injuries. Winston's dedication meant hours in the makeup chair for Arnold, who'd then perform under hot lights. The final stages, with half a metal skull and one glowing eye, remain some of the most memorable images in sci-fi horror. 21. Arnold scared drive-thru. Arnold once drove to multiple locations, still half-dressed as the Terminator, black leather jacket and one damaged eye on display, just to save time between setups. He pulled up to a drive-thru, forgetting how terrifying he looked. The shocked employee barely said a word, just handed over his order as quickly as possible. Arnold found it amusing, but also realized how effectively the costume could unnerve people, even off-set. 22. Phone book murders. The phone book moment, where the Terminator hunts each Sarah Connor in order, came from Cameron's desire to show the machine's cold logic. He pictured a real L.A. phone book with multiple Sarah Connor listings. The methodical killing spree highlights the Terminator's unstoppable approach. If it can't verify which Sarah is the right one, it'll just eliminate them all. Cameron said that detail, while small, symbolized the nightmarish lengths a machine would go to complete its mission. 23. Gas Station Goodbye. Linda Hamilton found the gas station finale bittersweet to shoot. She'd grown attached to Sarah's transformation from timid waitress to determined survivor, forging a bond with the cast and crew. That final shot, where Sarah drives off into the stormy horizon, left Hamilton feeling both triumphant and nostalgic. She sensed that Sarah's journey was just beginning, which Cameron confirmed. He already had sequel ideas brewing. Hamilton called it a haunting farewell, capturing the sense of looming storm clouds over humanity's future. 24. Ending kept hopeful. Cameron originally planned an even darker ending, emphasizing the hopelessness of the future war. But he softened it slightly, leaving the possibility of defiance alive. He believed audiences needed a ray of hope, especially after witnessing so much brutality. This decision laid the groundwork for Terminator 2, Judgment Day, in which Sarah wages a more active battle against the coming apocalypse. Fans often argue whether the first film's tone is more effective in its bleakness. Cameron, however, stands by the small spark of hope as essential to the series. 25. Arnold loved the line Arnold Schwarzenegger was so fond of "I'll be back" that he used it in day-to-day life after filming. Whenever he left a gathering, he'd casually drop it, half-jokingly referencing his unstoppable persona. He never anticipated how fans would latch onto it. Before long, it echoed everywhere: red carpets, talk show interviews, even in comedic parodies. Arnold joked that if he had $1 for every "I'll be back" someone quoted at him, he'd out-earn the Terminator's entire budget. 26. Huge profit surprise. The film's sleeper success shocked studio executives. Made for roughly $6.4 million, The Terminator pulled in nearly $78 million worldwide. Critics praised its high-stakes pacing and raw energy. Word of mouth was powerful. Viewers told friends, "You have to see this killer robot movie." Suddenly, Cameron went from an unknown to an in-demand filmmaker, and Arnold ascended to a new level of stardom. The underdog triumph proved that a strong concept and dedicated team could outshine budget limitations. 27. Ellison credit controversy. A small controversy brewed over whether Cameron had taken inspiration from writer Harlan Ellison. Ellison had penned short stories and episodes of The Outer Limits, featuring rogue machines. The studio settled out of court, giving Ellison a special acknowledgement in the credits. For fans, it stirred debate about how original the concept was. Cameron insisted his fever vision was unique, though he admitted Ellison's prior works had left an impression on his imagination. 28. Biehn on Skynet. Michael Biehn often got asked if he truly believed machines might conquer humanity one day. He'd respond, "I hope not," but he recognized the anxieties swirling around advanced tech. Over the years, as AI research exploded, some found The Terminator increasingly prophetic. Biehn joked that if a real Skynet emerged, he'd be the first to say, "Told you so," before heading for the hills. 29. Sarah-inspired heroines. Linda Hamilton's portrayal of Sarah Connor as a vulnerable woman who becomes a fighter influenced countless future heroines. She discovered a tough side to Sarah that resonated with audiences. Cameron later commented that Sarah represented the survival instincts inside ordinary people when pushed to the brink. Combined with the looming threat of unstoppable machines, The Terminator felt like a cautionary tale about technology's double-edged sword and the resilience of the human spirit when threatened with extinction. That blend of fear, hope, and adrenaline is why we keep revisiting 1984 Los Angeles. And it's why the T-800 silhouette in a dark alley still sends a chill down our spines. Just like Sarah Connor driving off into the unknown, the Terminator reminds us that the future may be uncertain, but courage and grit might just carry us through.